Question 52 is a very challenging question. Let's give it a try. So it says, stable predator-prey relationships are necessary to maintain a healthy ecosystem. The removal of a predator species from an area caused the deer population to sharply increase from 1910 to 1925. Changes in the deer population and carrying capacity of the area are represented in the graph below. Based on the information provided, explain how the sharp population increase from 1910 to 1925 may have resulted in the decrease in the carrying capacity after 1925. So the people who answered this question and didn't get it right, the key thing we're looking for here is we don't want to just know why did the deer population increase and then decrease. What we really want to focus on is the carrying capacity. So that's this dotted line here. Why does the dotted line go down? So normally a carrying capacity stays constant. It's whatever the environment is able to provide for that species in order for it to survive stays relatively the same over time. So this would be things that the deer need, like food and water and shelter. So what happened after the deer spiked in population? That's because nobody was eating them, right? And then they crashed in population, which most people got this concept correct. The population crashed because the deer ate all their food. They had no more resources and they may have starved and died. But once they started coming back, why did they have to come back at a lower level? So we have to think of reasons why that might have happened. And on the answer key, the main reason that's proposed is that the deer somehow destroyed the food source. They didn't just eat the food up and then it grows back. They ate it down so badly that they actually killed the plants that grew their food to begin with. So some potential answers here. It says the overpopulation in 1925 caused their habitat to be overgrazed. This did not allow food sources in the area to regrow for future deer populations. So in other words, they grazed it so much there was nothing left. They ate too much food. Most people got this part right, ate too much food, but what we forgot to include was that it lowered the amount of food available in the future. Again, here they destroyed some of the resources that were needed. So they actually, let's say, if the deer were stripping the bark off the trees and they killed the trees, then there would be no more trees to graze from. So things like that could permanently affect the carrying capacity of the environment. Next up. So base your answers to questions 53 to 54 on the diagram below, and on your knowledge of biology, the diagram indicates a change in an ecosystem. So we start off with a stable grassy field ecosystem, something disrupts it, but then a new stable ecosystem takes its place. So we want to identify one natural event that could cause the disruption indicated in the diagram. So this really could be any natural disaster that could destroy an environment. So examples are flooding, a volcanic eruption, an earthquake, a hurricane. Someone wrote tsunami, that would work too. A fire is a likely explanation for why this happened. So any kind of natural disaster could really qualify here. Now, once the disruption happens though, and you get back to a stable ecosystem, one of the things that we learned about ecosystems is that once they're stable, unless there's a big disruptive event, they pretty much keep themselves in check. There's a balance, things cycle up and down, but for the most part they stay steady and they stay stable. So that would be the second part of the answer here. So we've got the new stable ecosystem would probably continue, or it would remain unchanged, or it would remain stable. So anything about it remaining stable, you could predict it all the way to its climax community, but honestly, you really should just get with it stays stable, and that would be good enough. Last question in this section of the test was to explain why a mutation that occurs in a body cell will not contribute to the evolution of a species. So let's say I have a mutation in a cell in my finger. That might be bad for me in the long run. It might lead to skin cancer or something like that. But I can't pass it down to my offspring, because if that mutation's in my finger, it's not in the cells that I'm passing down to the next generation. So it can't be carried on by the next. So if you don't pass a trait down, it's not involved in evolution. The more scientific way of saying that is that the mutation would have to occur in a gamete in order to be passed down. So the answers that were included on the key here were genetic information in body cells isn't passed to offspring. The mutation isn't in a sperm and an egg, or you could say it isn't in a gamete, because gametes are the only things that are passed down to offspring. And that is how evolution happens.